Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey there. What do you want to act out in your life? What is important to you? What are you putting into your vision, into your dreams? We are spotlighting the fabulous Tiffany Yvonne Cox. I've just gotten to know Tiffany, and oh man, is my soul touched, right? Friend for life, absolutely. She is a first generation Trinidadian. She is an actor, a writer, a director, a producer, a storyteller. And she's been seen on regional stages like the Chicago Shakespeare Theater. I mean, she's done some amazing things. The Kansas City Repertory Theater, the Milwaukee Repertory Theater. I know you were just on, at the film festival. We're going to touch on Dancing with Films, and award winner there. You've been on Grey's Anatomy. You've been on Dead to Me, Good Trouble, and so many more. You've been very active in your space, both embodying and telling the stories of people through acting them out, I should say, right? But also, from the behind the scenes, from the writing and directing and producing. You've also, you're one of the leads on Hallmark's, I love Hallmark movies, Napa Ever After, and the first mahogany film to air on the Hallmark Channel. Congratulations. This is huge. This is huge. I know you're a huge advocate and speaker for the empowerment of Black women. We're all about empowering women here. So this lights up our hearts. And I know you're the CEO and the founder of, what is it? Honest Babel, Honest Babel? Do you pronounce
Yep, Honest Babel. You got it. Honest Babel production company.
Oh, I love that. And, you've done so many different productions and directing and producing these vehicles. I know you're working on your own film projects, and that's part of what I'd love to hear from you about Dancing with Films. And you are proud of your concept of single Black shepherd, which is what was at the was premiered at Dancing with Films, right? Dances with Films. Forgive me for mispronouncing things. Like, I definitely am doing it messy, but it's just amazing to know everything that you're involved with and the impact that you're creating in the world. You also do volunteering. And I know that you've got so many more things that you are focusing in on right now. So I'd love to hear what is something that you would love to share with us about the Dances with Films Award that you just did, because that's your own film.
Right, right. And just to set the stage, so the award, I guess, could be considered that I was an official selection. So I didn't receive a formal award, but I was an official selection, and they had thousands of films
That's
that they
huge.
review, and they chose 250 of them. And I was thankful to be included with SBS Single Black Shepherd. It's a proof of concept, so it was placed into the TV pilot category. I got to screen it there at the TCL Chinese Theatre. For those who are not familiar, it's
Yeah.
where Go to Hollywood. It's the Walk of Fame. It is the Chinese Theater across from Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Like that is where I got to premiere my film and to a nearly sold out audience. And it was incredible. And the whole thing with this proof of concept, and what a proof of concept is, it gives you a little taste of what's to come as there's a bigger story to be told. And my bigger story is a feature. It is a feature film based off of my life where I was on my way to get married to a man who, unbeknownst to me, was already married. So I pivoted my life and I became a shepherd of goats in France. And that is the feature film that I'm bringing to the world out in the future.
Ooh,
Yeah.
man, I got chills as you say that.
Yeah, it is all about, it is the Black woman's eat, pray, love. But even taking just color out of it, it is a human being's eat, pray, love, where they are allowed to start over, they're allowed to fail forward, and you get to see how when life throws you lemons, you create lemonade. And it might not be so clean as you're doing it.
Wow. That how powerful is that, right? That being able to start over is such an important concept. That's one of the things in neuroscience. And I know we have spoken a lot about failing first attempt and learning, but it's really something that is important to address starting over. We've talked about it from writing a new story, like being able to write a new story, but we can really go deep in there. So, in your story, what did it look like to start over?
For my story, it was letting go of what was my normal. I was an
Mhm.
actor in Chicago doing the thing of you audition, you get an audition from your reps, and then you go out to it. And actors at times can be very scared of going out of the country because you're like, oh no, what if I miss my opportunity? Because a part of an actor's job is to audition. I will do, back in the day, my goodness, I might do like 60 auditions per month. And maybe I book 1 to 2 per month, and that is success. It's just what the numbers are when it comes to this
Yeah.
business. So when you remove yourself for months at a time, a year at a time, there's a lot of fear of like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make my next paycheck? Am I going to be relevant? Are people going to forget me? All those, as I call it, lizard brain pops up, which is limiting beliefs. But something in my soul told me
Mm.
I needed to completely change what I was doing in order to see who I'm supposed to be on the other side of this tragedy. And so I did that. And travel is my personal therapy. I love to travel. So I just knew I needed to get out of my 4 walls of normalcy and get shaken up a little bit. I didn't know I was going to get shaken up that much, but it was but it was good. It was good because I learned a new skill. I had never worked with goats before, and there I was milking goats, making cheese, trying to push a cow into a stall because a storm was about to come. Also, nursing a baby goat into the next realm because it was dying. So it was just these different moments that you would not necessarily get in a city that I got out in rural, very rural France. Nobody spoke English except for the one host I had. And it allowed me to go deep into myself,
Mm.
to
Yeah,
quiet all of that noise that's in our brain.
yeah.
Where honestly, I say to people, it was like looking at the eyes of God by day 3 because everything was quiet and it was just me and the goats. And I just was able to breathe and just be in moment to moment. And that's where you really start to look at your values and what's important in life. And what was important in life at that moment was just the heartbeat and the breath that was happening. And I needed that to heal.
Yeah, that space, right? Like it's so easy, especially when, you get thrown these new lemons, right? Like to kind of figure out, going back to that lemon analogy I was thinking about, like to create lemonade, right? There's the balance of the sweetness and the tartness, and it's a science, right? Which oftentimes that's part of the process. But to sit in that silence and quiet, a lot of, my experience, I mean, I was there with my burnout, it's like almost forced upon you in a way to like really stop and be still. But that's so opposite to how we're programmed. We're so opposite from the do, go, 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 which doesn't really allow the process and time to heal and go through the motions. You kind of just found yourself more like a zombie, just going through the motion of the day to day because you feel like that's what it's supposed to be like. But to really go through the process of healing and going within is so powerful. And then, I'm loving all the story here because you can tell you're a storyteller because I've like got all these images in my head of you sitting in this field of goats in France. But what a beautiful eye-opening experience. And I would say a gift to really be able to go internal and realign yourself with what was important to you at that time. I kind of am curious, like, how did you find this job? Because I've traveled also a lot. Like you're in the right place talking about traveling because kind of like love to travel. And of course, as we're recording this episode, or like less than 2 weeks out from our move to Panama. But I'm so curious, like of all the things, of all the opportunities, of all the places in the world to find yourself, following this path for your reset in life.
Right. So I actually have always had a dream of having a farm one day. I still have this
Oh,
dream.
okay.
So when my other dreams went to poo-poo, I latched onto this one. And
Okay.
there is a program called WWOOFing, Willing Workers on Organic Farms.
Yes, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can trade your labor for housing and for food, and you just got to get yourself there. And it just so happened that somebody I knew had been with this family. So it felt a little
Okay.
bit safer for me to go
Yeah.
with somebody who had been with that family before. And I contacted them. They got back to me immediately and said, "Yeah, come on." And that's how I ended up being able to be somewhere like that.
Wow. Yeah, I also lived in the Caribbean several years ago, and there was a farm there that was owned by one of the families at the school where I taught. So I'm very familiar and definitely looked into that. I just love the fact, that there's so many different opportunities and availability for those that do love travel and are curious of how to create that as a possibility, that there
Yeah.
are programs like this that are out there. So I know we don't want to make the whole episode about that, but of
Yeah.
course my mind was very curious,
Yeah.
of to
Well,
create that and
you
to
can
find
have
yourself
that
there.
in for yourself in Panama. We use people that are from Workaway and HomeAway, as does one of our colleagues in the Diamond Transformation Program. And so you can have them come to you and, maybe they want an opportunity to learn English or be able to do a beautiful trade that way. I love that. One of the things I really liked about what you were talking about was the experience. And when we put ourselves in new experiences, we're allowing ourselves to get out of our familiar patterns, our familiar zones. We're allowing ourselves to stretch. And the fact that you took a step of silence within that, new experience actually expands that, compounds that. And it's very beautiful to see what comes out of that and how powerful that is. I would love for you to share, like, in your story that you're now starting to share and going from the goats, which is so amazing. When you said goats, I was like, is she talking about like, goat used for Simone Biles, or is she talking, the greatest ever, right? Or are you talking about actual goats? And you clarified that, and that's so incredible. You had your own personal goat yoga going on there.
And truly, in a sense, truly, it was me and them, like 100 plus of them. Yes.
100 plus, but curious forward into what you mean by the word artivism, what that word means to you and what that looks like, and where did that come from?
Yeah, definitely. So just the vernacular of it, artivism, artist and activism. And I came to realize that artivism was just something naturally that was happening in my world, where I would see something that is deserved of the global majority, and
Yeah.
then I would voice it. So, in
Mhm.
particular, I've had a huge hand in the work when it comes to equity in hair and makeup for those with textured hair and all the different beautiful rainbow of skin colors that is in the industry, and industry meaning within camera and also on stage, because there have been, for most of my life as an artist, I don't know a single actor of color who has not had a horror story when
Mm,
they were in the hair and makeup trailer.
Mm.
wow.
And yeah, so that comes from like hair literally being cut off, falling off later on, incorrect incorrect coloring, people turning gray on set. You'll look on screen and it's like, wow, everybody looks beautiful. But when it comes to the global majority who have a rainbow of color and skin tones, they look crazy. And
Mm,
so I was tired of talking about it with my colleagues who were actors and decided to actually do something about it. And it was during the pandemic, which fortunately, the beautiful thing of the pandemic was that everybody was at home. And since
Mm.
everybody was at home, I had access to all of these A-listers and I voiced my concern. I put a resolution forward to SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild. It's the union for actors and also other artists within the that category. And I put forward a resolution that had rousing applause. And then it came to the time where we were going to negotiations and it wasn't pushed forward. And I was like, well, what's going on? Like, I thought that we were going to do something about this. I said, you
yeah.
know what? Let me like
Where's
let
the
me
delay? Yeah.
where's the delay? What's happening? And so I started a little grassroots movement called Moving the Dial on Zoom.
Yes,
And
you
I was
did.
able, yeah.
I love it.
And so I was able to have incredible A-listers who also had been within leadership of SAG-AFTRA to support me and us. I was like, let's get educated on what's happening. And these people are like Michelle Hurd, who's on Star Trek, Jason George, who's on Grey's Anatomy, Chantal Quizno, Katie Von Till, Armand Vasquez, Cheryl Lee Ralph on Abbott Elementary. The list goes on and on. Lisa Ann Walter, huge advocate of this on Abbott Elementary. And I said, well, let's talk about it and figure out what's happening because all of us have these stories and what's occurring. And we came to learn that hair and makeup artists are not trained as extensively
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
people of color or those with textured hair. It
Yeah.
might be, and this is a little bit of an over exaggeration depending on where you are, but it's also accurate depending on where you are. They might have 1 day of training. It might be a few days of training. But it's few and far between where you are learning uh, on people of color, color theory, and textured hair the way we do on our counterparts.
Mm,
So I was like, oh, this is an educational thing that's happening.
Mhm.
yeah.
And so, with that being said, we formulated even additional language to push this forward, which also turned into us getting language within our contracts that's now codified that you have to have a skilled person to do hair and makeup for people of color and also have to provide a consultation. We also started working with the Crown Act, which is in several states. We're pushing to get it federally recognized as well, so that because this is all workplace discrimination. When we go on
Mhm.
set as actors, everybody has a job from the gaffer who's making sure the light is perfect so your features are crafted, the director who is guiding the entire story, the actor who is giving those words forward to interpret what the showrunner, what the writer has created, the hair and makeup artist as well, who's making sure that you have the exact look, whether that is today in 2025 or back in 1950s, and make sure it is done accurately. As an actor, I should not be doing their job. And
Mhm.
many actors of color have been doing their job for all of time. So
Wow.
it's time to stop that. And that's what I pushed and decided to do. We're slowly seeing moves, but hey, a movement has to start somewhere. And having that codified language, having that support of legislation, is really helping to move the dial.
That is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I know that you sit on the board of SAG, correct?
I used to. I have in the past. Now I'm a VP of a co-VP of the Women's Committee and sit on some of the national and local committees.
Mm, super powerful. So, leaning into that and leaning into your artivism in this situation, what led you into leadership? Where did you see yourself as a leader and step up into that role?
Yeah, I think it came from my upbringing. I grew up as a military brat. My family's from Trinidad and Tobago. I was born here, so I'm first generation. But as soon as I was born in Northern California, we moved 2 months later. And then I moved every 2 to 3 years after that. So I like to say I'm from everywhere. I moved 14 times. I
Yeah.
went to 8 different schools. I was the new kid on the block every single time, which
Wow.
turned me into a bit of a chameleon. because I was assimilating into spaces. And then as adult, I started to find my voice through wonderful therapy. And I think it's from that where leadership came forward,
Mhm.
where I stopped trying to be the good kid in the class, which I was a very good girl. I had that good girl syndrome,
Girl
perfectionism,
syndrome. Oh,
all
yeah.
of that. I had all of that. And then as I was moving along in my career, that wasn't necessarily working. Being on the hamster
Mm,
wheel, doing all the right things.
Yeah.
And also, I recognize like movement doesn't happen from somebody being perfect. Movement happens from somebody looking at the imperfect
yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes.
crafting that.
yeah,
And so I think I just became interested in questioning things and getting curious. And
yeah,
one thing that being a military brat taught me was also just how to do it with kindness. Like you don't have to
yeah,
be it doesn't have to be fireworks up in here, but it can be a curiosity. And I have a wonderful way of weaving in with people. Again, that chameleon, where then I started to create movement and changes where my soul and my spirit was like, this ain't sitting right. Something's not right about this for women, for Black women, for Catholics, for just things where the
Right.
structure has been placed. And I was like,
yeah.
we gotta open this up a little bit. There's something else in here that hasn't been explored. And I think I've had a wonderful voice that has allowed to do that without creating chaos, but with
Yeah.
creating change.
Man, that
Yeah,
go ahead, Alex.
let's say as you're talking about the chameleon, what's coming to mind here, like that we've spoken about a lot on this podcast, is like those operating styles, right? Those different leadership operating styles. As you level up in your leadership, you're able to flex and really connect with the people that you are surrounded by. So I love that the version of like talking about the chameleon because you're able to sort of assess the situation. You're leading by curiosity and love. And so you're coming from a very neutral place, which I feel is so powerful. And you can just tell, Tiffany, since, getting to meet you for the first time today, but just even, before we started recording, just like that the presence in you're confident. And that's such a really important thing, especially for women, leaders and in the place and being able to use your voice to be able to own that confidence, right? That self-assurance internally that then supports with being able to lead from that curiosity. And it's not a place of judgment, right? And I think that's what's really important. And there, like, it's, sometimes like it gets kind
Like,
of that feeling of,
I want you to keep going,
yeah,
Alex Leanne, but curiosity is the antidote to judgment.
yeah, yeah. But I think when you know that, right, when you own it, right, when you're leading and you know that you're leading from that place of love
Yeah.
and curiosity, just the in our ways of being, and I think on the subconscious level, when we're connecting with people, it really shifts the energy and the environment, and so it's really, really powerful. I just want to drive that home because I don't know how many times when it comes to coaching and speaking into the importance of leading from love and curiosity, and you just really like drove that home, and so I wanted to just reiterate that because I know my own experience, when I go back to my own past as a director, I would say that was what was missing from my leadership. And that had I shown up with from that space and that place, I really think conversations would have been different. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's making it so powerful with, you're owning your stance and really just, quite questioning it, but from a positive place of like,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's so easy to just let things go the way they always have been. And it's so, it's beautiful to have someone like yourself to just lovingly question the why, like how come, and then be able to get that information and then maybe able to make changes from that. So I just want to acknowledge that in you, Tiffany, because it's a skill and an art. And I guess I wish that more people embodied that and that we could create more of that
Yeah.
communication from that space. So
Oh my
yeah,
God.
thank you.
Right. Talk about, somebody sent to me a long time ago. They were like, everybody's right. I'm gonna say it again.
Yeah.
Everybody's right.
Yeah.
So if I'm coming from a place that I'm always right, you're coming from a place of I'm always right. And
Mhm.
then you take the next step forward and say, well, if you're right, let me just sit and listen for a second and get curious about it. Why are you
Mm,
right? Because this is your truth. And I'm wondering why this is your truth. And what if the other person on the other side did the same thing?
Yeah.
We could
mhm.
we could start, solve some world problems up in here,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
We really could.
Right. Right. I mean, I think that um curiosity is a distinction of leadership. And curiosity not only to me disables judgment, but it also it allows and enables kindness
Hmm.
because when you're curious from a place of curiosity opens you up and expands you and creates that environment for kindness, and kindness is very powerful. We don't think about it that way when we grow up. We're often taught, be tough, take a stand. We hear people around us all the time in their dogma, and guilty is charged. And the thing about that is that getting out of judgment and recognizing that everybody's right, every perspective, we believe our
Yeah.
perspectives,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love this conversation, and thank you for taking us. So, your story of leadership developed from you being all over the world, being the one that was out of the box. You were always the one that, didn't know anybody, and you must have had a strong family environment or some kind of support system. So, lean in and talk about that.
Definitely. So my family's from Trinidad and Tobago, and I got to give it up to my parents because they came from nothing. They had nothing. I think people of today don't understand what nothing is. They don't know what it is to have an outhouse. They don't know what it is to live in the bush, as we would say. They don't want to know what it is to see people eating flour for food. My family had nothing. And so they came from nothing and created something. My father was just so savvy and smart, being curious. And his father brought the children over, as you'll tend to hear about in the Caribbean. We're going to bring our people over. So he came over working very I don't want to say simple but stable jobs. And then my father was approached actually by, I think it was an army recruiter, but then that got him curious about the military and decided to go with an Air Force recruiter. And he learned that he could get his degree paid for by going that way. So that was his entryway on in. And then he met my mother during carnival time. Carnival's a big celebration in Trinidad. And they met, they had a long distance relationship, writing letters towards one another. He
Oh.
proposed to her, and then she moved up to the States here. Now, why did I go through that? Because that's how we got our family here. And they kept that going. My mother filed for 10 people to come to the United States exactly to get their green cards, come here, if they chose to become citizens. My mother is very much a matriarch. So I grew up, I have a younger brother and an older sister. And since we moved around so much, they were my first friends. Books were my first friends. And when I was in my household, we were in Trinidad because my mother made sure we had the music, we had the
Mm.
food, we had the value systems, and that was our stability. And
Yeah.
then my mother being who she is, where she chose family. She was a teacher in Trinidad. She came here, she said, I want to make sure my kids are stable. She chose family when she didn't have to. She had a whole different career path. And with choosing family, she also chose extended family. So I have sister cousins, and we are so close. That's why I call them sister cousins, where we get together constantly. We have our children that get together, and we pray that we're all having boys. There are no girls yet, which is wild because it's all girls except for my brother. And now we're having all boys. So we pray that we're able
Wow.
to bestow that upon them as well. So my family is exceedingly close. If I ever need something, I can call upon them. I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for this.
Wow, that's with all of the seeming instability over here, with all of the moves and the different schools and all of that, you had this beautiful picture of stability, and more important than stability, I would say support. uh,
Yeah.
the support within that. And stability itself can be supportive as long as we're staying out of being stuck. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all have certain needs to be met. And you touched on poverty that I think we in the US anyway, many, and I'm not disparaging anybody who has nothing, but many people here that come from other countries and have experienced poverty in other countries, including me with my travels, see that our poor are considered wealthy in many places, or at a certain level. It's relative, right? If you've
Mhm.
got housing, if you've got, satellite TV, for example, if you've got the ability to get food stamps and go and get something to eat that is provided for you. We have, things that we take for granted that we don't even realize what having nothing, truly coming from nothing to the point where you're surviving by eating flour. I assume you mean ground like wheat flour.
Okay,
Um,
the flour you got in the bag to make bread. Yes.
yeah. And then, to being able to step into their own belief system, their
Mhm.
own belief in possibility, their own taking a risk, going somewhere new, creating a new level that your family got to experience, your father's college degree being paid for. I think these things get to be highlighted because we get to create our realities. And there was a belief system that went along with this that not only walked you into confidence and leadership, continues to cause you to be able to create the reality that you truly desire for yourself and your family and those around the world that you're impacting. So, really beautiful. Okay, I want to hear about what does it mean to be multi-hyphenate? What is that?
Right, exactly. Well, so many people, if you're watching YouTube or if you just look me up afterwards, Tiffany Yvonne Cox, if you just Google it, I'll pop up. I'm on a show, Hulu's Reasonable Doubt. Our number one is Emma Yahtzee, Corey Naldi, partnered with McKinley Freeman, and I play the best friend, Autumn Owens. And so, as an actor, I am so blessed. This is our third season on the show. We premiere on September 18th. Set your TVs, get ready. And if you don't have Hulu, check Disney Plus. You can see it on Disney Plus around the world. That's where you can find it there because Hulu's not around the world. And so it's been such a blessing to be on the show. I play a therapist, I get to act. And as a multi-hyphenate, acting is one way to share a story, but also I write and I direct. And that's another way to share story. Hence the term multi-hyphenate, because I'm not just an actor, I'm a storyteller. And I get to share that in the different realms of interest for myself that brings a story to life.
Being able to bring stories to life is, we all live around stories. Stories are what really impact us. And so, where did you learn to be a storyteller? Where did you craft this? Because it's an art as well as a skill.
It completely is. All right, we're going to go a little dark for a minute. So you guys just hold on to me, okay?
Okay.
It's going to be okay on the other side. So,
Okay. Okay. Yes.
right? So when I was a sophomore in high school, I went to this program and we were doing a play called Bang Bang You're Dead by William Master Simone. It was written right after the Columbine shootings, one of the first shootings in America that was highly televised, I should say.
Yeah.
And in this story, there's a character, Josh. Unfortunately, he kills his friends, he kills teachers, and by the end of the story, he recognizes what he did was wrong. So we would do this play for other high schools and we would have a talk back. At the second talk back, we asked the question which we asked everybody, did anybody in the audience feel like our main character, Josh? And a kid stood up. He said, I have always felt like Josh, but now I know I can't do the things that he did. The
Wow.
power of words. And that is why I became an actor. And that is where story, and I understood the power of story came from. My personal mission, you will see it on my website, says exposing the world one story at a time. And it came from that moment.
Wow.
Wow.
I got chills listening to that. And the fact that you acted on that, you went forward and you did something new, different, probably uncomfortable, very uncomfortable at times to learn how to be a storyteller in all of its aspects. It's not just the acting, it's the writing, it's the directing, it's the producing, it's the crafting and putting together through film, through this medium, stories, but it's also the storytelling aspect, you know,
Hmm.
the creating the story, telling other people's stories, and doing it in a way that keeps the viewer engaged, you know, that craft of being able to share a story. And man, Tiffany, thank you for acting on that. Thank you for walking forward and being brave and courageous, and now impacting the world with being multi-hyphenate, right?
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I highly appreciate that and receive that.
Aw.
Tiffany, I'm really curious, given the fact of like having these three different roles, what is it like when you are given, the work of somebody else to act out and versus your own writing and your own directing? I'm really curious, like internally, if there's a different internal dialogue or if there's a different conversation that happens,
Yeah.
right? Because oftentimes I think we do see this oftentimes if we're like, presenting someone else's work, but when it's our own work, it's like closer to our heart. And I'm really curious for you, do you experience that or is it sort of similar in depending on what hat you're wearing?
So when for example, I'm directing a piece on Saturday, not written by me, it is so much fun it's like a treasure box of trying to interpret. It's like going back to English class where you're reading, whether it's a poem or it's a play or you're reading a book and you're like, "Ooh, we got to find the themes and we got to look through what does this mean? What's the underlying thing? What were they really saying?" That's what I'm doing as an actor when I'm reading somebody
Mm,
else's words a lot of the time. That's my whole world. So I love that. It is truly going on a treasure hunt to decide which piece of jewels do I want to put forward, because there's many
mm,
times. And then when it's my own words, I'm closer to it, right? So I already know a bit of the map of what's happening. And I think the treasure hunt happens when other actors come into play, where then
mm.
I'm hearing their interpretation of my piece and I'm playing against them. And so then, therefore, what I thought I already had planned, because I lived this experience, I've written it, it changes. It completely changes because I have somebody on the other side where now we are living this together through their interpretation, and then I'm interpreting what they're doing. So it just makes it alive. You've seen those
Yeah.
performances where they are just like, they are visceral. You
Oh, yeah.
feel it. And it's
Yeah.
because the actors are in the moment with the given circumstances and the words, but it's coming from their spirit in the moment of what's
Yeah.
going on.
Wow. Wow. I love that, just being able to lean in there. What does your day look like? You're on a regular ongoing series. You've got script to memorize. You've got two little ones. You're flying cross country. How does that work for you? Because you are in a high level of leadership with your productivity. What does that look like?
My goodness, right? It is ever changing. There's a really popular video going around right now where Jennifer Hudson asks the guy, like, how do you balance it all? And he's like, I don't. And I'm not saying that we should be doing that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that I am working on the other side of that. So I'm gonna tell you what it has looked like and what it is looking like right now. So
Ooh,
what it has looked like, right? What it has looked like is waking up at 5 a.m. and not finishing work until 10:30 p.m. And then maybe there's a break in between with things, maybe if I'm lucky. And usually that break is cooking meals, doing bath time with my kids, and hopefully playing with them for 30 minutes.
Mhm.
On the other side, which I'm highly working on, and honestly, guys, like I was bad. So I failed and I got sick. I got really, really sick. So I was like, I have to slow down. Those of us who are out there who are, my therapist said it so well. She was like, girl, you are hyper independent, so slow down. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
oh.
I like that. Right? I'm an Aquarius, so I totally relate to that.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Love what we do. We love what we do. My job brings me so much joy,
Yeah.
even when I'm in the pursuit of a job. Because let's be real, as a multi-hyphenate, I'm auditioning constantly. I'm
Yeah.
taking interviews constantly for the next job. And then also I'm creating constantly and then looking for investors, as I am right now for my feature.
Right.
So there is a constant state of looking for a job. It's not a nine to
Mm,
five. Is
Yeah.
anybody a 9 to 5 as well? So, but a thing that I have incorporated, so now what my day looks like, I do still wake up at 5 a.m. because it's schedule wise, I need it so that I can get my kids ready for school around 7:30. So, but in my morning, I have a very sacred ritual and mornings are where I'm the most productive. So I listen to a podcast called Faith and Feminism or some other form of a faith-based something to get myself settled. I try to take 4 deep breaths in the morning. I will say a prayer to the Almighty. Mine is God. You choose whatever you desire. Please do that for yourself. And then so I listen to Faith and Feminism. And then actually listen to Unleashed and Unstoppable because Carol and Alex have wonderful things when it comes to abundance and the limitlessness that we have in life. I have a beautiful workout. I journal while I'm in the sauna. So I just do a free writing. Whatever comes to my brain, I let it all out.
I love
And
that.
then I will do my schedule while I'm in the sauna too. So I get a pure sweat and also I get everything out of my brain. When I get home, I have time with my children to get them ready, get them off to school, and then I really go into my productivity stage, whether that's learning lines, whether that's an audition, or maybe it's going to set, which might change things up because sometimes I got to be on set by 5 a.m. It just depends. But I really try to do this. I've been working on taking a break for 30 minutes to an hour a day. I have an accountability partner. So I text her, I say, hey, girl, I'm about to take my break right now. And she's like, good job. And then
Yeah.
I'll go lay down. And I lay down. And then after that, I get up. I make myself a delicious meal. And then usually my babies come home. I bathe them, play with them, have some time with my husband, put them down to sleep, do a little bit more work because auditions come through at 7 p.m. and I got to memorize it and then put it out the next day or the day afterwards. But I'm working on getting to bed around 10:30. So somewhere between 9:30 and 10:30, that's where I'm sipping one of my delicious combinations of tea and watching The Bear or some other show. And maybe it's NCIS Origin. I just had an audition for them this morning.
Yeah, that's
I do
amazing.
that. And weekends, I do not work. I do not work on week unless this
Yes.
week I'm directing a show. But other than that, weekends I do not work. That is for my family. Even if an audition comes in Friday and it's due Tuesday, I do not work because that's my time for my family.
I love that I think that's so beautiful to paint a picture for, you out there as you're listening to this. What does productivity and being able to be efficient and effective look like for you while keeping your oxygen mask on? Because the previous picture that you painted definitely leads to burnout. And that
Yeah.
isn't effective. That doesn't get us anywhere. All it does is take our nervous system down. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot, isn't it, Alex? And Alex has really had a powerful focus there as a productivity coach. And it's super powerful to know that in leadership, and in being limitless, all things are possible. So, how do we create this big, expansive life of our dreams? How do we operate at 7, 8, 9 figures? How do we experience the life, have the impact that we want to have out there? And looking at a practical picture of you who are doing that, Tiffany, is very helpful and inspirational because it's the discipline that you have to put your oxygen mask on first that creates expansively in your life. And none of us has it perfect. That's why I like the word harmony better than balance, although I know we all look at it, it's mnemonics, right? But it's so powerful. So,
Yes, and I'm not perfect every time. I'm actually currently looking at outsourcing, finding PR, finding somebody
yes.
else to do my social media, and allowing somebody to cook for me as well as I'm on also a womb journey of healing. Like I am looking for those spaces to outsource because it's going to feed me even more than I realize at the
Yeah.
moment.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and I think one other thing to hone in on as well is that you're really clear on your priorities, right? And when you're really clear on your priorities and you're really clear on how you want to spend your time and you're really clear on that productive time, right? Like you're like what's important to you, what's going to fuel you and support you with your focus. It really makes it so much easier to say no to things that are not aligned there. And when we're so busy, it goes back to even the beginning of your story when you talked about creating that space for yourself. when you allow yourself that space to really be able to go internally and get really clear and connect with what's important to you, then the decisions that you make are reflected in that, because the decisions we make impact the actions we take, which impact the results we generate. And so it's so clear and so important to really be clear on that result, the end result. And so for you to stand in that and again, trust yourself and own that confidence piece, I think it's just so important to it's always the things that we always really like to reiterate on the podcast here, because though it's very simple, it's so easy to get, going with all the day to day and just life, and just that reminded time of being still, being silent, protecting that time for you, which is really going to help you show up as a more powerful actor and director and story writer and mom and wife and
And
cousin
daughter.
friend, right?
All the
So
things. And I have to say as well, like, and this is the woo-woo in me, right? Again, use whatever word feels good for you. But like also we need to make space for God, universe, photons, neurons to
Spirituality.
do,
yeah,
yes, to do the job for you. They're here
yeah.
for you. So sit down for a second. Let them do their job. They're like, when you finally sit down, God, universe, photons are like, oh my gosh, thank God she sat down. Now I can do my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we got to create space for that.
Mm. We actually
Mhm.
did a meditation around that, around the light photons and the universe supporting us today. And I agree 100%, being able to look at it like we're integrated beings. We're a system of mind, body, spirit. It is starts with a thought. Yes, our thoughts fire, but often we receive thoughts that aren't our own. We receive other people's energy, and the people we're around, and we're impacted by that. And it's really important to, you know, be able to look at what we want to desire, what our vision is, getting the crystal clear on that, and priority is such a powerful part of that. So yeah, that's right. Having those priorities lined up is a beautiful thing to do. I think it's important too, that we really lean into um, remembering that from a wealth perspective, I'm always talking about that on here, that if you are working 18-hour days every week, not only, we recharge everything in the world, our phones, our cars, whatever it is, everything needs recharging. Why do we think we don't, or we can go endlessly? But on top of, doing that from a wealth perspective, you're not creating space to bring in when you're in the busy. And all of that 18 hours is not productive. It's a lot of it is busy. It's what gets wired in, that hustle part. And then also, if you start to consider your overall net worth and what your hourly rate is, it's really important to recognize that if you're working 18-hour days, you're making peanuts, right? Versus if you're bringing it in, being efficient and effective, then not only are you creating space to continue creating, but you're also, your hourly rate is just by that action alone gone up. Yeah. So, not that we're trading time for money. That's a whole other discussion.
So, Tiffany, as we wrap up here today, I'm really curious for you when you hear Unleash Unstoppable, and I know that you are, an avid listener of the podcast. What comes to mind for you for the ambitious, wildly ambitious leader listening today to be able to put forth to be Unleash Unstoppable?
Oh my goodness. That thing that you believe, and even if it's like a kernel, a little sparkle, a twink in your memory and your mind of what you think you can have or deserve, go for it.
Mm,
Latch onto it. Start to vi have visions around it because you are allowed to have it. Go for
mm,
it. Even if it seems as if it's not possible, don't worry about the how. Don't worry about that. It's going to come. I used to say to some of my business clients, I was like, if you have a goal, tell everybody.
Yeah.
Tell everybody the goal. You have no clue who's going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, well, actually, I know somebody in Eritrea who is looking for somebody to do this job. You should meet them. You have no clue. You are limiting yourself if you don't share that beautiful vision you have with other people.
Wow. Wow.
That's the power of the declaration, right? Don't keep it to yourself. Let the world know what's important and what's on your heart to create. So thank you, Tiffany, for being here today.
Thank
And
you.
for,
I
how do we follow with you? How do we connect with you? How do we learn more about you? I mean, I know that you probably just Google you and you're all over the place, but like,
Right. But yes, you can. So follow me, Tiffany Yvonne Cox. You can find me on all the socials. I'm most active on Instagram. I'm building that TikTok, y'all. So follow me, where I also do a whole thing about life in between, besides just seeing me on screen. What am I doing in between? Because it's a lot of other things. So you can follow me. My website is TiffanyYvonneCox.com. IG, Tiffany Yvonne Cox. TikTok, Tiffany Yvonne Cox, and same for LinkedIn and Twitter.
and
wow.
you mentioned you're also looking for investors, right? So I was thinking if you're listening today and you're wanting to learn more about investing in the project that Tiffany is up to reach out and connect with you.
Please
Absolutely.
do. It's going to be an incredible project. And just my goodness, being in the film industry right now, what a delicious piece that you can have if you choose to invest some of your money and prayerfully get a nice chunk back. We can talk about the numbers and just how it's a lot of fun and how you can have fun just spirit wise and also financial wise if you invest into my film.
Wow. So exciting. So, so exciting. And we'll have a conversation about that. I'm so excited to do that. I want to shout out that if you would like to be an ambassador in saving teens' lives and teen leadership, I am working with Lisa Nichols. She also is an incredible motivational speaker, has worked with, everybody top in the industry that you could possibly think of, was in the film The Secret many years ago. And the teen program she has in Big Bear, California is about to start. They are looking for ambassadors and donations, and they take those in a variety of ways. They have a strong certification program. They are the only known teen camp throughout the US that works on and provides emotional intelligence. They've been doing this for years, for 7 years, and the ripple effect is unbelievable because kids come in, even a few of them, not choosing or wanting to live at that point, life
Mm.
changing, transformational. It's a camp with no judgment, no conditions. You get to be truly who you are. You get to share whatever you want to share, no judgment again, and learn about emotional intelligence and learn about the value of life and your life in particular. So if you'd like to jump on board and be an ambassador with me in this, being an ambassador looks like not only donating, it's also maybe contributing something from Amazon's possibility, sharing the more people who know about this, the more support they have coming in. This year's camp is full and funded, so this is moving forward. And I think they've been doing camps for 7 or 8 years now. So,
Well,
all
thank
right.
you, listener, for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast. Until next time, stay unleashed and unstoppable. Bye.
Ciao for now.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.